Hello everyone, how's it going today? Glenn here, back with another weekly Monday vlog. First, I just want to say thank you to all of you guys who tuned into my last video that I did about 9/11 and one of my events that I did regarding that. And I had a number of folks who I knew personally, knew in person who had come up to me, chat with me about they liked some of my insights on that. So appreciate that, guys. Appreciate everyone tuning in and for the feedback. So yeah. Okay, so today, bit of a disclaimer here. So today, I wanted to get in my soapbox a little bit, talk about a topic that gets me a little bit heated sometimes. So for all of those tuning in, you have been warned. Today, I want to talk about this idea of the starving artist, the proverbial starving artist that it's a term I keep hearing thrown around quite a bit. So for the uninitiated, the idea of the starving artist is like a creative type, an artist, a musician, someone who involves in the creative endeavors, a bohemian, you might say, this person who lives on a rather minimal income because they haven't really broken into their stride for whatever industry they're pursuing, and they spend so much time on their artistic endeavors that they can't hold down a regular job or make decent income. And I've heard folks bring up this idea a number of times. A lot of other voice actors who I run with, either through Discord or occasionally even in person, Twitter as well. Know a lot of folks on Twitter. And it came up again in a conversation I was having last week. It was mostly just a throwaway thing and just talking about like, we're such and such starving artists and this is why, we behave a certain way and we're always trying to, make ends meet, blah, blah, blah. And really, the whole idea of this starving artist sort of irks me. The idea that it's such a convention that people fall back on. Because in my mind, from my mind, my own personal understanding and view of things, there's just not a lot of reason for that to have to be the case anymore. Now, there may have been a time where that was the norm, where you were a person who just spent your days, if you wanted to make it anywhere in like acting or music, you spent all your time just, waiting, walking door to door to recording studios, waiting in line or auditions for your chance to, have your shot and opportunity to shine. There may have been a time where that was really the norm for those kind of endeavors, but not so much anymore. Not from my understanding. Like, if you are moderately talented at what you do, you're willing to work, and you know where and how to look for work, you don't really have to be a starving artist in 2019. Like, if you got a computer with decent internet connection, there are so many avenues for getting income and experience out there, and many of them with a very low barrier to entry, like stuff that you can get going on today. Maybe there's a skill you don't know anything about. You can start learning and get going on that today. Like, take voiceover, for example. Something I'm obviously, quite personally involved with. If you come in like no background into voiceover, as I was, about 2 years ago, and you want to get into it, there is a pantheon of free YouTube material out there where you can start learning about voiceover performance. You can learn about the culture, the who's who in the zoo. You can learn about gear as far as the recording space, as far as your microphone, as far as, good cameras and computers and whatnot to work with. Tips for how to, have a successful audition, etc. So much of that information out now today, completely free for people on their YouTube channels. And even if you go to take some online courses, like courses on Udemy and whatnot, you can get some really awesome deals on stuff covering a lot of the same material even more in depth. And so once you kind of have an idea about where you're going and you want to start getting some experience, there are so many ways to get volunteer voice work through subreddits or websites like Newgrounds and Casting Call Club. There are even websites where if you want to do it a little bit more what's the term? Like volunteer, more altruistically. You want to do more altruistic volunteer voiceover work? There are opportunities for you to read textbooks and news articles for people who either are blind or they have reading disabilities. So you can allow them to get that same information in verbal form. So you can not only get experience but also give back in a little way. That's really cool stuff. And once you start getting your chops, getting your experience down, you can start making, some initial cash doing audiobooks or getting some micro jobs on freelancing sites and a number of different sites, a number of them that I'm on, where you can just get a lot of smaller gigs just to start getting that supplemental income and building more experience and building up your clout. And even and this is kind of stuff that you can do to your own level on your own time. It's not something you have to devote, 40 hours a week to do any of it. If you have a full-time job, there's no reason for you to outright quit that full-time job if it's making you do good money and something that you can do to start making money doing something else in a more creative endeavor. You can gradually take on more of what you can. And then as for, marketing yourself, getting yourself out there, I mean, so much of the marketing today is through the major social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, etc. And just about every one of those you can get started on completely free. And once again, there's a cornucopia of free information out there about how best to utilize these platforms to get your name out there. Like I spent, a lot of you guys will probably know, like I spent a lot of my social media time on Twitter. Like that's one of my big social media marketing platforms. When I was first starting getting into it, I had no idea what I was doing. But I go on YouTube and I'm like, how to build a Twitter following, how to do Twitter social media stuff. And there were just hours of great material which helped me to learn stuff to do that is, really projecting my Twitter platform forward that I just see so many other people who aren't doing. And we have access to all the same stuff. Yeah, and where was I? Scrolling down my notes here. And even on top of that, there are also plenty of other ways to make supplemental income if you're like working from home. I mean, consider freelancing. It doesn't just have to be whatever industry you want to get into. I mean, you can be a virtual assistant. You can be a copywriter. So many other things that you can do to make money as you're trying to build this career or this artistic vocation that you're trying to do. You don't need to sacrifice a decent income to make a go at your creative endeavors. And it irks me when people suggest that that's just sort of the norm, how things have to be. I remember I was watching the documentary, I Know That Voice. It's on Netflix. Great documentary. It's about a bunch of the famous voice actors and the history of voice acting for people who voice all the classic films, movies, video games, etc. And there was a clip of one of the gentlemen, a guy named Bob Bergen, who's pretty well known in the industry. He's the voice of Porky Pig nowadays. Really decent dude as well. And he had this line where he said, don't go into voiceover or voice acting for the money. Go into it because you get a high at the mic, because you just get such a passion, such a drive out of doing that. And like honestly, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to get into voiceover as a career if it wasn't something that I absolutely loved doing. But voiceover, like every other job I've done, is a job. And every single job I've done, I have done it at least in part for the money, because it's a job. And honestly, if you know what to do, there is a lot of money to be made in voiceover out there today. Like not even just like enough to get by, being a single dude living in his house, but like enough to support a family on, enough to, I know people personally who are making the equivalent of what you would have to go to like law school or years of medical school to get an equivalent salary doing voiceover work. And like a lot of folks I know, not all, hey, big asterisk here. I'm not calling out everybody in this, making a big general sweeping motion. But a lot of folks who think of themselves as starting artists who really don't have to be if they're willing to put in the work. A lot of folks I see struggling on their careers, trying to think, how can I get more work? How can I move this and this and this in such a way? And I just looking at, their social media platforms or talking to them, I can see there are a number of things that they are not doing that they could be doing now to start opening up some of those avenues. All right. Now, I'm not saying life isn't hard. I'm not saying that there aren't people out there who have unique circumstances that can make it really difficult to make a decent wage doing creative endeavors or working or whatever. But I am saying in 2019, in modern Western countries with internet access, you have fewer excuses than ever before not to make this work. All right. Whew. Okay, deep breath. I'm back to normal, Glenn. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Appreciate you guys listening to me talk about this stuff. I spent a little time, trying to get my script organized, make sure I said everything I wanted to say in the way that I wanted to say it. So yeah, I'm gonna stop this video and then go off to do some things this week because I can. Because like I said, there are 1,000 avenues out there that I could pursue this given day. Sometimes I feel like I'm a door-to-door salesman and there are just a million doors out there that I can knock on. And it's great to be alive. Life is just awesome right now. So I'm gonna go out and crush this day. All right, guys, thanks. Take care.